I'm 82 years old. And for the first time in my life, I'm saying this out loud without trying to soften it. I spent 45 years chasing security, and somewhere along the way, I lost myself. I don't say that for sympathy. I say it because there isn't much time left, and pretending feels heavier than telling the truth. At this age, time feels different. It's no longer something ahead of you. It's something you sit inside of, like a quiet room you can't leave. Most mornings I wake up early, not because I need to, because my body does it on its own now. I sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee I don't finish, and I look at the window like it might tell me something new. It never does. I think a lot these days. Not in big, dramatic ways, just small moments replaying themselves when I'm not asking them to. People assume regret comes from failure. Mine didn't. It came from being responsible, from doing what made sense, from choosing the safer option again and again until that was all I knew how to do. When I was younger, security felt like love. Providing felt like proof. Stability felt like character. In my 20s, I wasn't dreaming of anything wild. I wanted a steady job, a roof that didn't leak, bills paid on time. I watched my parents worry about money every day of their lives, and I promised myself I wouldn't live like that. So when an opportunity came along, nothing glamorous, just reliable, I took it. It meant long hours. It meant being tired most days. It meant saying no to things I told myself I could do later. Later became my favorite word. I married young. We loved each other in the way people love each other when they're building something and don't have time to examine it too closely. We talked about trips we'd take once things settled down. We talked about hobbies we'd pick up when work slowed. We talked about who we'd be eventually. Work never slowed. My days fell into routines so quiet they didn't feel like choices anymore. Up early, commute, coffee that burned my tongue, meetings I barely remember now. Home late, too tired to say much beyond, "I'll do it this weekend." Weekends were for errands, fixing things, catching up on sleep, telling myself I deserved rest because I'd worked so hard all week. My kids grew up in the background of that rhythm. I was there, technically, at the table, in the house, but not always present. I missed small things first. A school play I thought was optional. A conversation I postponed because an email felt more urgent. I told myself children don't remember that stuff. They do. The damage didn't arrive all at once. It never does. It crept in quietly, dressed as responsibility. I remember my daughter once asking if I could help her with something she was excited about. I told her I'd do it later. She nodded, like she understood. She didn't ask again. At the time, I felt relieved. Now I understand what that silence meant. Years passed, promotions came, titles changed, the paycheck grew, and with it the sense that I was doing the right thing. People respected me. They called me dependable. They said my family was lucky. I believed them. But respect doesn't sit with you when the house gets quiet, and dependability doesn't hold your hand when you realize you don't know who you are without your job. The first real crack came when someone close to me died, suddenly, too young. I stood at the funeral, listening to people talk about how quickly life moves, and I nodded like everyone else. Then I went back to work on Monday. That's how deep the habit was. Years later, my wife got sick. Nothing dramatic at first, just appointments, tests, waiting rooms that smelled like disinfectant and old magazines. I still worked. I told myself I had to. Security, again. She never accused me of anything. That was the hardest part. She just got quieter. One night, sitting in the living room, she said, I wish we'd lived a little louder." She wasn't angry. She wasn't crying. She was tired. She passed a few years later. After that, the house felt too large for the life we'd actually lived in it. Retirement eventually came. People shook my hand. They said I'd earned it. They said I must be excited. I wasn't. Without work, there was nothing left to distract me from the questions I'd been avoiding. The days stretched long and thin. The phone rang less than I expected. My children called, but conversations felt careful, polite, like we were guests in each other's lives. That's when it became clear. I hadn't failed. I'd delayed myself out of existence. There are things that can't be fixed at 82. Time isn't one of those things you get to negotiate with. You don't explain, you don't promise to do better. You accept. I can't go back and be more curious. I can't show up to moments that already passed. I can't become the version of myself I kept postponing. Some doors close quietly. No slam, no warning. Just one day you realize you don't have the key anymore. If you're listening to this, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I don't believe in telling people how to live. I just wish someone had told me that security is a place you can hide in for so long that you forget why you went there in the first place. That later has a way of disappearing without notice. That being needed isn't the same as being known. You don't have to burn your life down. You don't have to make dramatic changes. I didn't need that. I just needed to pay attention sooner. To stay in conversations instead of postponing them. To be present even when it was inconvenient. To understand that approval feels good, but it doesn't keep you company. I'm not bitter. That surprises people. I'm grateful for many things. I provided. I kept people safe. That mattered. But I also carry a quiet sadness for the person I never quite allowed myself to be. Now my time is simple. Short walks, old photos, memories that visit whether I invite them or not. Some nights I talk to my wife out loud, not because I believe she hears me, because I still have things I never said. If this meant something to you, I'm glad you were here with me for a few minutes. That's enough. At 82, you don't need big endings. You just need honesty. This is mine.